Anybody out there feeling like they are in the construct, the machine, the old Matrix, Truman effect? Well, if you're not, that's good. But, well, if you're a targeted individual that's experiencing higher forms of harassment, it's only a matter of time before it happens again. I've seen it change. I've talked about that in prior videos, how people get attacked, and sometimes it's very intense. It's in your face, and then, well, it either changes and gets more covert, or it stops. And then the individual, the victim, is left trying to process the information. It's very confusing for people who get attacked. One day, it seems like everybody knows their business, and they're getting, hit from all sides. And then, the next day or maybe a week after or whatever, however it's divvied out to you, then it just changes. It's like it goes back to normal. Zeph Daniels talks about that. And, his theory is that it's actually some type of dimensional shift. And I definitely think that the spiritual dimension is involved. I don't see it that way, but I can see why he thinks it, because it might as well be. It's that freaky. People have talked about things before that, just get them wondering. I don't know if you guys have ever had the attacks where you might have break-ins or whatever. You're looking for something. Might be your keys. Keys are usually a popular item, to get just suddenly lost. You don't know where the hell did I put my keys, and everybody loses their keys. It happens. Sometimes you can read into things and get paranoid or whatever, but there's those times where, and it doesn't, have to be your keys. It can be anything where you look in a certain place for something that you've lost, and it's just not there. And you'll go back, you might look a couple times, and that's always what happens. If you lose something, you're always checking, the same place, and it's almost like a post-traumatic effect, because that, the third or fourth time that you look in that spot, and all of a sudden it's there, whatever it is, keys, whatever, and all of a sudden it's just there, and you're like, I know I looked there. It's no way. People will do that. They're constantly, how many times are you going to look in your pockets, Bill? Every now and again you'll do that, and it's just, well, I know I check my pockets. But it's just things that freak you out, that don't make sense. Some people, well, they get into the spiritual explanation at that point. I don't know. I think sometimes that those guys that are hired to break into your house, they want to get copies of your keys, and then, mysteriously 2 days later, all of a sudden, blam, there they are in the place that you looked, or somewhere where they couldn't even possibly be, that you're eventually going to stumble across them. It's just beyond. A lot of people talk about the hive. And I can see why, because, everything, that works out in our world, in this construct, however you want to view it, it's cause and effect. There's things that are, a lot more mysterious. And of course, there's the God factor. When he intervenes in something, you can't predict. It's just mysterious. You don't know how it works. And, after a lot of, studying biblical theology and stuff like that, I think the kingdom of darkness has a lot of little tricks up their sleeve, but I think that they are the ones that use, most of this manipulation and, the type of Molinistic theology that, how everything, runs off stimuli, and of course it's predictable, and, everything seems preordained at that point because of the obvious cause and effect predictability of certain reactions and stimuli and different environments and stuff like that. But of course, I think that, when you really get into studying, how all this stuff works, when God intervenes, Well, that's totally different, because we can kind of see how they're doing it, whether they're moving someone into an area, like a targeted individual. For example, we talk about sensitization and people experiencing trauma, and then they become apprehensive, and then they start to process information differently, and then they become dysfunctional, and they might become paranoid, and they might become self-centered in their thinking, and then they start to self-scrutinize themselves. And the whole thing just is kind of a predictable snowball effect. But then, God could intervene, and I think that's really how it works. And you start to see things, or you become connected with a different piece of information, and the puzzle kind of comes together. But you do have that. This world, is kind of a chain reaction event. And when you're dealing with gangstalking, when you're dealing with that type of dimensional effect, when you're dealing with the hive, well, it's freaky, and it is real hard for new targeted individuals to comprehend what's going on. And I see a lot of people out there, and I'm not going to judge anybody, because I thought a lot of this stuff too. I mean, I went from all kinds of different theories that everybody was in some type of secret cult. And I mean, I remember walking down the street when all this stuff first started happening, and I was wondering, I wonder what's really going on in those houses, especially the ones with, they might have, different symbolism or something like that on the front of the house, or different colored lights, and all of a sudden somebody would look out at you, and it just seemed all synchronistic and everything. And I wonder what the hell. And then you have other theories like, the reptilian thing, and there's a different race of people. But really, I don't know. I can see why people think that, but from my point of view, I see this whole thing as, a spiritual conglomerate. And I see it from the biblical angle, to where you have principalities and powers, then you have familiar spirits and unclean spirits and stuff like that, where, Michael Heiser gets into that kind of thing. And he kind of breaks it down from the, the point of view of someone, from the Judeo point of, Hebrewic interpretation of how it was written for them, and how they're going to see all these things, and, the folklore and all that stuff that's put it together. But you have that, chain of authority. And then, of course, the unclean spirits and the familiar spirits, well, they possess people. They control them. They influence them. And when you have that type of synchronicity, and you have that hive effect, that's the way I'm looking at it. Because if you get into the Bible, you can see that people are either a sheep or a goat positionally. And that, that can change. People can be in cults or whatever, and they can come out of them or whatever, or they can, obviously be unsaved. And then of course, they can change that with their free will choice. And you have, you have a lot of possibilities. And when I run into something like that, or I remember an event that's just logistically impossible, or you're dealing with things that are obviously supernatural, that's how I process it. That's how I look at all these things. And it really made a difference, because, and I don't know if you guys have experienced this, there's probably people out there that have, I would assume, that when you get into that type of interpretation, things do change. They did for me. Okay? Because before, when I didn't know, and I was all paranoid, and I was, thinking about this or that, or coming up with different theories and speculating, it was fun for them, I think. And I think they took advantage of the ignorance. But then, when I started to process this information differently, and I looked at it through the spiritual lens, and that time, at that point I knew, okay, that, all the gaslighting and all the condemnation and all the accusations that came at me, And, that type of, we're justified effect that targeted individuals get in their gaslighting was coming from a place of evil. You can't be wrong and right at the same time. And at that point that it's based on lies. And it changed. It had to. Because, that's part of the whole, methodology of this is that, you're being lied to. You are being manipulated. You are being bamboozled in a way where you are gaslighted into believing all kinds of things. And people have that type of, inferiority complex that goes along with being victimized and being attacked and ganged up on to the point where they start to see themselves differently. They start to have a complex. They start to feel and see themselves the way that their oppressors want them to. And they start to believe the lies. But once you realize what's really going on, you know that it's a lie. That these influences, that these people are, obviously wrong, and their intentions are not noble. I've talked about that too, where a lot of times targeted individuals are led to believe that these people are trying to help them. It's easier to believe that too, because, a lot of people get into the, arena where they're just in shock, where they get attacked and all these things. Their life is, ripped out from under them, and they don't know what to think, and they're trying to process, maybe, family members who are involved, or, friends that have turned against them. Their workplace is different. They're getting neighborhood harassment, and it's like, are all these people really that messed up? And it's almost easier at that point to believe the lie. That they're just trying to help. They're just trying to, set you straight about something, or, make you stronger or whatever. And I've talked about God can do that, and he works it out for your benefit, but there's no, motive from them that's noble. They're trying to destroy you. They're trying to drive you to suicide, or, homelessness. Dysfunction and death, chaos. Okay, that's what they want. Don't believe that they're trying to help you. There's all kinds of things that you're going to realize when you see this for what it is. And that's why I try to push, the perspective of the spiritual agenda, because when you're processing this stuff any other way, not only doesn't it doesn't really add up logistically. And it seems like you're fighting a bunch of people all the time. And then, of course, you're going to react and you come to different conclusions that are incorrect. But you just don't see it for what it is. You don't see the manipulation. You don't see the gaslighting as effectively as when you see this stuff coming from hell, and the intentions and the motives behind it. They really illuminate it, and it has to change. And when that happens, it's just not the same for them. They can't come out of the woodwork and accomplish that same effect, because that it's based on lies, that it's based on manipulation, and that their intentions are evil and they're wrong. And what the Bible says is going to happen. They're gonna they're gonna lose. They might oppress you for a time. They might give you the beat down for now, but eventually it's going to come back around. And instead of buzzing around you like a bunch of immune killer bees, that are justified or getting away with this, or however they want to try and appear. As they oppress you and gang up on you, it just doesn't work, because you know the truth. You know who they are, and you know what's going to happen. And that's important, guys. Be good to yourselves. Be safe.